Welcome to the Contemporary Music Centre's Salon, our second episode for this new online series across the summer months. And for this episode, well, it's well and truly a celebration of strings, quite specifically the viola and the cello. And joining us are Andreea and Adrian from the ConTempo Quartet. We're delighted that you're with us, Adrian and Andreea, from your home in Galway. And we have the great pleasure of hearing Andreea and Adrian play works from Jenn Kirby. Hello to you, Jenn. You're joining us from your home in Scotland. Deirdre McKay's for Bob. And also we close this episode of the Salon with Jane O'Leary's As If One. So a big welcome to our three composers featured in the Salon for this episode, Jane and Jenn and Deirdre. And we're also delighted that joining us to discuss the visual aspects of Jenn's piece, which we'll come to in her piece Mumbles, is Mihai. And great to see you, Mihai. You're joining us from Romania this afternoon, and we're delighted that you could be with us to discuss this work. I suppose we should start with your work, Jenn, as we've referred to it there. This work, before we see and hear it, and without giving too much away, it's quite a theatrical piece.
That's definitely accurate. It is quite a theatrical piece. In fact, there's more instruction, I suppose, in it. Instruction's too strong a word, but instruction than there are pitches. I think in there that it's very much about gesture and performance than maybe a lot of notes. So it was written specifically for Adrian and to collaborate with Mihai as well. So in that way, it's quite nice that it's not just written for a cello or for strings. That it's written hopefully respectfully for a personality as well.
Mm. Yeah, Adrian, I had the great pleasure of seeing this wonderful video that Mihai has produced of you performing this work, and I was struck, I suppose, by the fact that, you know, all your musical expertise and ability is called on, as we would expect, but you really are expected to do more than that in this. You know, you're expected to really be quite theatrical with your gesture and to be kind of acting, I suppose, acting certain ways.
Yeah, no, it's true. You have to be fit for this piece, as you can see from the recording. But I love the idea when we started this project in 2016, that this commission by ICC was especially for cello and visuals. So like this, both myself and Mihai, we had the chance to meet and work with six composers, if I remember correctly, selected by the Irish Collective Composers, to work with over a period of time, and had few sessions and to talk and bring our ideas. And actually that show in particular, it was like a play. When there was no applauses in between, there was like a 1 hour show. The pieces will go smooth from one to another one, and involve also the theatrical moves and gestures, and humming and banging, and even taking some selfies on stage. And we had great fun working together, and especially having Mihai, long-term friendship and colleague with whom we've been working together in several projects, including in some of the Jane O'Leary's piece, Mystic Lay of Shadows. We did some visuals in the past, and also we've been working, if you remember, for the EU project, Evonne, we've been involved as
Yes.
well, New Music, New Audiences, when Mihai helped us with these visuals for our piece. I'm glad maybe Mihai can develop a little bit more about working with composers and bringing his own touch to Jen's piece.
Absolutely, Mihai. It would be great if you could sort of enlighten us on how you approach the visuals for a work like this. How did the collaboration I suppose, work? How did that sort of develop? I mean, did you look at the score or the list of instructions, as Jenn says? It's quite a long list of instructions, and the pieces of score as well included, or do you speak to Jenn, speak to Adrian? How does it work for you?
Hi Evonne, hi everyone. So for this piece, the approach that I took, it was, I think the show took place in Smoke Alley. And I remember talking to Adrian and to Jenn before that, and being so theatrical, I opted for a live camera. Actually, I placed the live camera in front of Adrian, and then I just layered different things as he would go mad, and then layers of different kind of graphics, and I had like some things prepared in advance, so I was just shooting them and letting them react with Adrian's gestures and with the music. So that was like the idea for that piece. And then of course I talked to Jenn before that. She gave me a few hints, a few directions. So I just let it flow with the magic of Adrian.
But the version that you've done for us for the Salon is slightly different. It's not the live visuals.
But
Yeah.
in the same time, it's kind of the same idea, because you have like a live camera. I got the video recorded it was recorded with the phone, I think. So the quality is not great because it's like the lockdown is about very let's say guerrilla film. So I got the
garage
video.
kind of radio TV channel.
And then I was like thinking, when people they stay in their homes for a long time, it's like the air becomes impregnated with their presence. It becomes kind of very heavy when you stay in one place. So the whole idea for the approach of this is like the whole room starts reacting to what you do in the room. It's like the whole room, like the dust, all these crazy elements, they start boom boom boom.
Hunting, both the musician and the composer.
So are we going to retitle this version the lockdown version of Mumbles then? Jenn, how would you feel about that?
I think the nice thing about it is that there can be so many interpretations. That's certainly what I like about it, that it feels like that it feels like there's very equal parts to this. Like, even actually it feels like almost there's less of my role in there, but maybe we could say that there's a third each. That it feels like the interpretation of it is so much part of the result that it is that it becomes only a fraction of it is kind of what I've said, and then there's strong input from elsewhere as well. So and depending on the various circumstances you can find yourself in, such as the one we're in now, that interpretation is going to be guided. There's so much openness and there's so much kind of pulling in from external factors that's going to be, surely it will be quite different every time, actually.
Let's hear and see Jenn Kirby's Mumbles, the duet for cello and visuals, with Adrian on the cello and visuals by Mihai. Jenn Kirby's Mumbles for solo cello and visuals. They're performed by Adrian Mantu on the cello and visuals by Mihai Cucu. And Jenn, what did you have any further thoughts on that version?
I think I couldn't have possibly wrote a lot of what's in there. It's really wonderful to experience it this way, actually. So just thank you so much for performing it and for reimagining it in such an interesting way.
Is that a special thing for you, Adrian? I mean, yourself and Andreea, and of course the ConTempo Quartet, you're performing so much contemporary music. You're wonderful exponents of works by Irish composers and by international contemporary composers. And I know that we've spoken before, and you always are very clear in saying to young people, young audiences, that the attraction is that with contemporary music, you can speak to composers about their works and you can discuss everything, and you can ask them questions. I've seen you and the quartet in rehearsals with composers, and it's fascinating to be a fly in the wall and listen to those conversations. With this work that was written, very specifically for you, I mean, how would it be for you to sort of guide another cellist if they came along to ask for advice on performing it?
Yeah, I had in a way, I was in a great situation to work with the composers first before they even start writing some sketches of their works. So they try to find out about my personality, my own thoughts, and of course I try to bring this dramatic element to the pieces. But so in a way, I can say I feel at home with this piece, which, as Jen's mentioned, there's like this piece can embark different journeys and different endings. It's like starting the film, and you have the option every sequence to change the pattern, to take a different turn. And because we can go a little bit into detail, saying that this piece has lots of cells, and the performer, in this case the cellist, picks whatever suits him or her, and trying to do that path. So in other words, each time I play her piece, is just undertaking a journey with an unknown ending. So I know I'm taking a selfie at the end, but I don't know if this will be like a happy ending or a dramatic journey, or because even the cells themselves, the musical cells, they can be altered and modified by the performer. So if I have to recommend this piece to any of my cellist fellows, I'll definitely do that, and telling them that they can explore not only her piece, but also their own feelings, and they can find something to resonate with their own inner thoughts in exploring her piece. So
no, it's really interesting that we have the music and what the composer has kind of given to you, and then bringing your creative expression out to the audience, as well as Mihai's interpretation as well through the visuals. I suppose, Deirdre, coming to you, there's quite a contrast in your work, because it's quite strictly scored, I think you would say. And again, though, there is a similarity with this whole page of instructions in this work as well, and some of them quite technical. It's for solo viola, but also with the sympathetic piano string resonance. Deirdre, tell us a little bit about that, and why you chose, I suppose, the viola, and to have the string resonance of the piano and the pedal sustained for this tribute to Bob Gilmore in your work.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, as you know, like a great friend of CMC's, Bob Gilmore is this incredible musicologist and pianist, performer, curious mind, who I've been really, really lucky to have had in my life from I was quite young, like sort of 19 or so. So Bob would have taught me in my undergraduate, and was an incredibly gentle, unassuming, but brilliant teacher. And I think, you know, I suppose the friendship really blossomed with Bob after, beyond sort of, you know, I was doing my master's in England and he was in Dartington, and I travelled to Dartington, and I suppose it was at that point that like kind of real friendship developed and sustained. So Bob tragically died in 2015, and I think so many people continue to just really feel a gap in the world with Bob's loss. And a really beautiful thing happened in that his partner, Elizabeth Schmaltz, who's a gorgeous violist, Dutch violist, and friends of Bob's, put together this festival to celebrate Bob's life and his passions and research and work. And people descended in London March 2016 for this mini festival to celebrate Bob's life and work, and came from Netherlands, US, Ireland, everywhere, UK, you know, brilliant performers and composers and musicologists, and all just congregated giving these incredible talks and performances. And the last event of that little mini festival for Bob was presented by Ireland's own brilliant Argodos. So they put on this like Irish night in Cafe Otto, and friends of Bob's had been Irish composers had been asked to write new works for this little event in Cafe Otto, and Ben had very kindly asked me to write a piece for the event, and had said they were kind of thinking along the lines of composers as performer. So he said, if you were up for writing a piece for yourself to perform. So I did momentarily consider writing a piece for myself to perform with violin, but to be honest, the reason it became viola was Bob had asked me to write a piece for his trio scordatura in the Netherlands. And I do know when Bob was ill, I realized retrospectively, I kind of held that as my guarantee he was going to be okay, because I thought, like, he's not going to ask me, you know, to write a piece. It means he's going to be okay. And I kind of, in a way, it was actually a lovely thing to hold, because I thought, you know, this is really positive. He's asking me to write a new piece. You know, things happening as they did in the end, that opportunity was gone. Trio scordatura, there's not another one like it in the world, really. So this was actually a really, for me, it was a very meaningful way to, I suppose, like, let that take a new form, that piece that wasn't going to be, to take the form of being for Bob's partner, Elizabeth. So it sort of was just a natural kind of happening in that way. And Elizabeth, so it was solo viola, and actually the piece, I did quite a bit of work on this piece that I ended up, I wouldn't say, I mean, it went in the bin, but it was kind of more that it was, I didn't think the piece that I started writing, even though it was lovely in lots of ways, there was something about it that didn't sit well with me. And I just thought, in the end, I kind of hit a point where I thought, I'm not sure this is the piece as such that I want to write. So I kind of just took a breath, you know, cleaned the slate, and thought, I'll set it to the side, not straight into the bin, just in case, and sort of just took a breath and started again. And this is the piece that ended up, and it felt more right. And I think partly because at that point, it's sort of, sometimes it can be like a way to deepen your concentration. You know, it's a bit like warming up before a run or something, that sometimes you need to write stuff before you get to what you need to write.
I think in this work you really have captured the emotion. You know, I think it's a very atmospheric work. I think it's a very beautiful and very fragile work. Like, a lot of your works have this kind of fragility, this beauty, which is very kind of fragile in the way that I interpret the writing. And I think it's really effective and evocative in this work, Deirdre. It's really a kind of a very fitting tribute. You know, it does feel a kind of a reflective piece. You know, that you're that you know, it comes across that you are reflecting on your relationship with this wonderful person.
Yeah,
And I suppose just to kind of bring Andreea in here, because Andreea, you know the work is it's very close to Deirdre's heart, as we've you know the subject matter is very emotive for her and very personal. I mean, how do you as a performer sort of make your way into creating that atmosphere, which I think you have successfully achieved in the performance that I've heard you give?
Yeah, it is very difficult. I think it's more difficult playing this sort of piece than a piece which is much more explosive, in which you can hide. This is very, well, you cannot hide anywhere. You need to be very still and very calm. You have to control your emotions, and technically speaking, you need a very good control of the bow, of the intonation. Everything is shown, so you are very exposed. So it wasn't an easy piece to to play and to learn, but I enjoyed it very much. It's a beautiful piece. It's all the colors in the harmonics as well, these ethereal sounds given by the harmonics, and the stillness and the tension in the harmonies. It's a beautiful piece.
I think ethereal is really a really fitting word for it, Andreea. You've kind of you've summed it up there, and you know this is created with the wonderful timbres that Deirdre has written for you on the viola, but also with this resonance idea with the piano. Can you just tell us how that works, Andreea, and the kind of setup that you had to do to create that?
Yeah, that was fantastic. It was an extraordinary experience. I didn't expect it. I thought it would be special, but I practiced it for a few weeks just on my own, without using the piano at all, just to learn it properly and to be able to control, to do it very clean and to do it well. And I just tried the piano before recording it, just a day before, and I couldn't believe the difference, like that resonance coming back from the held. So what you need to do is that you have to depress the sustain pedal, and that makes the strings resonate to every noise. Even if you are in the room and you say something, the whole room will vibrate. It's fantastic. It's an extraordinary experience. It would be so nice. I don't know how well that comes through in the recording, but in a live setting, I'd say it's really emotional. I can see people being very moved by it. It's as if you're in the middle of sound. You're surrounded by sound. It's a fantastic effect.
I thought the effect did come across in the recording, Andreea, but I would say maybe I would at this point advise people to put on some headphones if they have them, because I think you'll probably be able to get the effect more clearly with headphones in this recording that we're going to hear. But how did you keep the pedal depressed? Did you get a brick, or did somebody in your house help you?
Deirdre says in her instructions to use a wedge, or I don't know, a human doing it. Adrian was offering, but
I was dismissed
I
straight away.
preferred him not to do it, not to be in the room, because there was something about him which would interact with the whole atmosphere. So I prefer to do it on my own.
I bring the dramatic element, to her piece. So,
he found a way to depress the pedal. It wasn't easy. I don't know, it's not easy.
I found some tools in my old shed, so I finally make use of them, and the pedal.
Great. Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece, as I say, really captures, Deirdre, for all of us, I think, that have heard it, the spirit of what you wanted to convey, and your great respect and affection for Bob. Let's hear for Bob with Andreea on the viola, and in this work by Deirdre McKay. For Bob, for viola and sympathetic piano string resonance, performed there by Andreea from the ConTempo Quartet, in that work by Deirdre McKay. And you're with us here on the CMC Salon, and in this episode we're hearing works by Jenn Kirby, Deirdre McKay and Jane O'Leary, and it's to Jane O'Leary's work that we turn now. And great to see you, Jane, and great to have you along on this episode of the Salon. And we've heard from Andreea and Adrian in a solo capacity, and for our final work of this episode they join for this duet of Jane's called As If One. Jane, the title of this work really is summing up, I suppose, your artistic ideas for this work as well.
Yes, the title is very descriptive of the piece. It was, it's for viola and cello, and so we have two instruments, and there are a few ways you could interpret the title, but it was written originally for Martin and Adele Johnson and performed by them in fact in a CMC Salon in November 2016. So I had also the idea that I was writing for a married couple, and I wanted them to play as if one, which has all these implications, and it's quite nice to think about when you're writing a piece. Also, the viola and the cello, I was very conscious of the sound of the two instruments, the kind of overlapping pitches of a huge part of the range, and how they are different, but they could be played as if it was one instrument. So that was important to me. So then at the same time, Adrian and Andreea were in Galway with ConTempo Quartet, and I believe they were, Adrian was doing a program at CMC with children. And I guess I talked about the piece, and I probably asked for some help along the way, as I do with every musician I know, just checking out, how about if I did this? So the piece passed on to another married couple, viola and cellist, and I just thought that was a really, really interesting connection.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, Andreea and Adrian, I mean, we've heard you play this work before in the past, as Jana said. I mean, it's really, it looks like you're both really enjoying it and really, I suppose, enjoying each other's playing and this duet.
I mean, the first reason is that it was written for a married couple, not for a divorced couple. So that, of course, brings happiness.
Handy.
Even though as if one played by two separate no, but it definitely brought us joy, because we are trying to explore the viola and cello repertoire for years. And even if you take into consideration the classical repertoire, you don't find too many options out there, and we are always searching for new pieces. And that's why when we found out that Jane is going to write a viola and cello duet, I say, oh, please, yeah, we have to have a look at the piece even before it was premiered, just to get a hint. And actually, we like very much that piece. And now there's something funny about it, because Jane was writing this piece, as we know, in two movements, and but at that time she was just finishing her first movement of the piece, and we like it so much, and we had the chance to play it, I think, even twice at CMC for this children's series, our tunes. And over the years, yeah, we were playing at home on your side reading music. We were always playing Jane's piece, and of course it was our first option when we heard about cello viola recital for the CMC for our online performance. And we had a look at the piece, and it was fresh in our minds. We remember the time we spent with Jen and discussed about it, and it was in a way easy to put it together. And this is how we sent you the piece. And just to find out, even a few days ago when I was checking the timings on the CMC catalog of Jane's piece, we realized that the piece should be 11 or 12 minutes long. I said, our piece is only 7 minutes long.
that cannot be true. I mean, I think we are playing exactly her tempi. So, and then we found out that actually there was a second movement written, and which was premiered by Adrian Mantu. And we had a few sleepless nights, but all for a good cause, because we learned this second movement. We are so grateful, actually, because as I said, the cello and the viola repertoire is has only few pieces written, and we learned that piece, and actually you can say that became one of our favorites. And I was telling even Jane that because we practice so much, we almost learn it by heart, which is quite unusual for a contemporary piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrea, do you want to tell us just a little bit about the viola writing in this work? Because I think that Jane really writes so beautifully for strings.
Well, I was delighted, and thank you very much, Evonne, for inviting us to do this concert recordings for your series, because we had the chance to choose this piece by Jane. We are great admirers of Jane's music. We play a lot of her music with the quartet, and I absolutely love her style. So I was absolutely delighted that there was a piece we could include in this recital. She really knows how to write for the strings. She knows us as well. We've been here for 17 years, so we've met Jane so many times, and we talked about music and we tried things. She asked us to try things to see how they work. So that's the best thing, to collaborate with the composer and to learn from each other, see how things can work. Again, it's very atmospheric, it's very colorful, and even though there are very precise instructions, you always feel very free, and you can express yourself the way you want. So I really enjoy playing Jane's music.
Well, after all the sleepless nights that you've had this week, then learning the second movement, let's hear the two movements of Jane O'Leary's As If One, with Andrea on the viola and Adrian on the cello. Andreea and Adrian from the ConTempo Quartet with that duet for viola and cello from Jane O'Leary, As If One. And Adrian, you had just a final point that you wanted to add about the work.
Yes, because when we are picking the pieces for this event, we didn't realize that by the end of our final choices, we were choosing 3 women composers, and then we found out that all 3 works were written in the same year, 2016. So it may maybe bring a new dimension to this program.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Adrian. And big thanks to Adrian and Andrea for your wonderful playing and your wonderful choices today. Thanks to Jenn, Jane and Deirdre for sharing your insights about your work, which are always so fascinating. And to you, Mihai, for joining us from Romania to give us your thoughts on collaborating with contemporary composers and performers. Our next Salon series will take place in a few weeks. Do stay with us for that, and all the details will be on our social media and on our website.